بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. I seek refuge, I seek protection in Allah Azza wa Jal from Satan, the accursed one. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. In the name of Allah Azza wa Jal, with the name of Allah, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. The topic of today's khutbah, of today's sermon, is the struggles we encounter in striving to hold on to the rope of Allah. And we start with the basmala, with this phrase of who Allah is, not simply just because it's a practice of the tongue, but because our hearts need to be fortified. They need to be protected and they need to be nourished. With the remembrance that our Creator is first and foremost the Lord of mercy and the giver of mercy. إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونؤمن به ونتوكل عليه. Indeed, all praises and all thanks are due to Allah. We praise Him, we seek His help, we seek His forgiveness, we believe in Him and as our Creator, and we place our trust in Him. ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. We seek protection in Allah Azza wa Jal from the difficulties, the struggles, the ego, the self-deprecating attitudes within our own selves, and from the consequences of our misdeeds and our mistakes. Whomsoever Allah chooses to guide, no one can lead that person astray, and whomsoever is left wandering, only Allah can grant them guidance. We bring this all back to the testimony of faith by which we live and die. It is a testimony of faith that reminds us not just of the here, but the hereafter. It is that testimony of faith that gives us hope, that the struggles and the difficulties that we endure, the internal spiritual battles that endure or occur within us on a daily basis, those that this world will never know of, those that even the loved ones around us will never be aware of, those battles that we try to fight and overcome throughout the course of our lives, our existence in this world, on that day, this testimony of faith reminds us that our Creator will reward us for it. It is this testimony of faith that reminds us that the sacrifices we make, whether this world will ever know of it or not, they will on that day be accounted for by the one in whom our hands and the one in whose hand our soul lies. We say proudly and humbly, وَنَشْهَدُ أَن لَا إِلَهَ إِلَّا اللَّهُ وَحْدَهُ لَا شَرِيكَ لَهُ وَنَشْهَدُ أَنَّ مُحَمَّدًا عَبْدُهُ وَرَسُولُهُ. We testify that there's none worthy of worship except God, the one without any partner. And we testify that Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, is his servant and his final messenger. And again, I ask myself and I ask you all, who exactly does Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him, mean to you? Throughout our day, if there's someone we meet, whether it's a family member or a friend, I may say their name 4, 5, 6 times. But no more than that on a daily basis. We take the name of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam 68 times a day. If you were to just pray the obligatory prayers and no more, we say his name with our tongues 68 times a day. And what is the significance of it? Once, as we know, the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is with his companions, and he says to them that I miss my beloved ones. In one narration it said that the Prophet, peace be upon him, was given everything he wanted in this world, but the one thing he could never acquire was being able to meet his beloved ones. The companions say to him, Ya Rasulullah, but we are right here, we are with you, what do you mean you miss your beloved ones? He says, no, you are my friends, yes, but I'm talking about my beloved ones who come after me. And they say, Ya Rasulullah, who are those people? And he says to them that they are those who will come after me in the generations that succeed me. And they will never bear witness to me, never experience me in the flesh or physically see me, but they will follow in my footsteps. This is our Nabi, who yearned for us before we ever existed in this world. And it's with that we send peace and blessings upon him. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He says in the Holy Quran, بعد فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم, يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. He says, O you who believe, be mindful of God as is His due, and make sure you devote yourselves to Him till your dying moment on this earth. Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Holy Quran, يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا اتَّقُوا اللَّهَ وَقُولُوا قَوْلًا سَدِيدًا يُصْلِحْ لَكُمْ أَعْمَالَكُمْ وَيَغْفِرْ لَكُمْ ذُنُوبَكُمْ وَمَنْ يُطِعِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَقَدْ فَازَ فَوْزًا عَظِيمًا. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, O you who believe, be mindful of God, and speak in a direct fashion and to good purpose. And He will put your deeds right for you and forgive you your sins. Whoever obeys God and His messenger will truly achieve a great triumph. As with any sermon or lecture beginning, we start by sending peace and blessings upon Muhammad when we say, Allahumma salli wa sallim wa barik ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Every Friday when I go out to give khutbahs, to do sermons, I try to push myself and those around me to strive to figure out new ways to be grateful to God. And one of the things I'm grateful to God for, as it ties into our sermon today of holding on to the rope of Allah Azza wa Jal, is I'm grateful for the things that He has actually said is forbidden for us. Many of us have experienced, whether growing up or talking to others, that when we speak about Islam, we oftentimes reduce it down to the black and white, to the yes or no, to what is halal and haram, what is permissible and forbidden. And while those elements exist in our faith tradition, this practice, this belief, an entire way of being and living, we reduce it down to yes or no. And regardless of the interpretations, the different schools of thought, and all the valid opinions that exist, sometimes when we see someone who practices their Islam differently, we see a brother or sister who prays with their hands by their side, rather than questioning ourselves as to what our knowledge of Islam is, we question them as to whether they have legitimacy in their Islam. And then, as my teacher tells me, we start to forget what actually Allah says is forbidden for us. As Allah Azza wa Jalla says in the Quran in Surah Al-Zumar, Ya ibadi alladina asrafu, O my servants who have transgressed themselves, who have wronged themselves beyond the limits, La taqnatu min rahmatillah. Do not despair in the mercy of Allah. That it is haram, it is forbidden upon you as a servant of your Creator to despair, to lose hope in the mercy and the forgiveness and the willingness and the desire of your Lord to forgive you. That's when we think about, when we show a gratitude and a gratefulness to God. Today I wanted to focus on what it means to hold on to the rope of Allah Azza wa Jal, as He tells us in the Holy Quran. Because in the day-to-day struggles that we endure, there's many things that get thrown at us where we start to slip and lose sight of where that rope is and how to hold on firmly to it. Part of the effectiveness of khatibs, of people who give the khutbahs, is their ability to be vulnerable and to be honest. And I say to you all first and foremost that this past week, there were things that I thought would contribute to my professional, my personal growth, but they ended up resulting in setbacks, in ways in which I feel like I've regressed both personally and spiritually. And so this topic came to my mind of how does one hold on to the rope of God? Especially in a way of being where we have so many reasons to doubt and so many reasons to turn away because of what this world throws at us. And it starts by a fortification, a protection of the heart. The heart, the Prophet ﷺ has described, the heart of the child of Adam is more inconsistent than boiling water. And what he means when he says that is that every single day our hearts are turning. That we may have a deeply rooted belief in this tradition and in God. But when this world throws its materialistic, hedonistic, self-centered demands of this world, we start veering and losing sight of who Allah is. And that is why we learn through the traditions that the most famous dua of the Prophet ﷺ, the most common supplication he would recite is Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. O Allah, O transformer of hearts, make my heart firm on your deen. This is the prophet of God asking on a consistent, on a daily basis, Ya Allah, this heart of mine, make it firm on your deen. Because we have this thing within us that wavers. And in not being able to protect it and fortify it, we start to slip in that grasp of the rope of Allah. For us to understand how we hold on to not only our belief in God, but our willingness and desire to submit to Him, it comes down to the understanding of who do we know Allah to be? Who do we know Him to be as our Creator? One of the names of Allah Azza wa Jal is He is Al-Wali. He is the protector and helper. He is the protective friend. When you boil it down to its root, wow, nam, ya, the scholars, they explain that it comes from the root to be close to something or someone without any barrier. My teacher, he explained it to me that if someone was sitting next to you and there was nothing in between you, that person so intimately close to you would be your wali. Allah Azza wa Jal describes Himself to His creation through these attributes, through these traits that are meant to make Him tangible and experiential to us, that He is our wali, the protector and helper. That you have a Creator that is so intimately close to you, that He says in the Holy Quran, وَلَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ وَنَعْلَمُ مَا تُوَسْوِسُ بِهِ نَفْسُهُ. He says, we have created humankind and we know what their nafs, what their self whispers to them. What the doubts, the anxieties, the fears, we know what that nafs whispers to the heart of that person. وَنَحْنُ أَقْرَبُ إِلَيْهِ مِنْ حَبْلِ الْوَرِيدِ. And we are closer to that creation than their own jugular vein. And I wanted to look this up. What does Allah Azza wa Jalla, as He's describing so vividly in the Holy Quran, that He's so intimately close to us, closer than our own jugular vein, what is the purpose of this vein within our bodies? When you look up the role of the jugular vein, it is the vein that carries blood from your heart to your brain and back. It is the vein that sustains the mind, the part of us that hosts all of the doubts, the anxieties, the fears, the questions that we may come upon in trying to believe in God. And Allah Azza wa Jalla says to us that He is closer to us than the part of us that sustains those doubts. SubhanAllah. That the connection that exists between our brain and our hearts, He is closer to us than that, because the connection with us and Him is that much closer. That is your wali, as Allah Azza wa Jalla Himself defines. And then we ask ourselves, what role does Allah as al-wali have in our lives? He says in the Holy Quran, Allahu waliyyu alladhina amanu yukhrijuhum min adh-dhulumati ila an-nur. Allah Azza wa Jalla is the wali, the protector and helper of those who believe. And He carries out those people from dhulumats, from multiple darknesses, not just one darkness, but multiple layers of darkness. He carries them out into a nur, into the light. And when the scholars commentate on this verse, they say that Allah Azza wa Jalla, He did not speak about the mu'minun, that Allah is the wali for the believers. No, because the believers are people who not only believe in God, but fully and are able to submit themselves to Him. He says He's the wali of alladhina amanu, those who believe. That they are those people who have faith in their hearts, believe in a Creator, follow in the footsteps of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but they struggle. They're not there yet. They're working their way to perfection. And Allah says in this ayah that He's the wali of those very people and seeks to bring them out of darkness into light. What does it say about a Creator who knows our pitfalls, knows the whispers within our hearts, and then continues to define Himself as the one who wants to be so intimately close to us as our wali? In holding on to the rope of Allah, we have to think about where our hearts are. One of the things that we discover as we continue to exist in this world is that this world continues to define us simply by our physical needs. You go to any website, any ad that you see on the streets or anywhere you go, and all the ads and advertisements and the things that people seek to market to you, the vast majority are just to feed your physical self. to give you sex, to give you money, to give you food. They don't see anything else within you. But the beauty of our faith tradition is that there is a non-physical part of us that Allah Azza wa Jalla seeks to elevate, seeks to find good in, seeks to raise up. And in our quest to protest against the demands of this world, we turn to that non-physical self. My teacher says to me, he says that this world will feed you in the physical sense and have you overindulge with your physical needs. But what are you doing to feed your non-physical self? What are you doing to nourish and cultivate and protect this spiritual part of you that transcends this limited reality of this world? What I find fascinating is what the Prophet ﷺ would do to protect his own heart. That he would make this dua, Ya muqallib al-qulub, thabbit qalbi ala dinik. Oh Allah, transformer of hearts, make my heart firm on your deen. But it's also incredible to see what he would recite on a daily basis in the morning and in the evenings. That there is an entire litany of statements he would say. One of the things he would say, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, is أَعْلَمُ أَنَّ اللَّهَ عَلَى كُلِّ شَيْءٍ قَدِيرٍ. I know that Allah Azza wa Jal has full control of everything in this world. And he would say that on a daily basis. Because how often do our hearts lose sight of the fact that God is in control? That He is fully encompassing our hearts and our needs. And rather we lose sight of that. And then when we go out into this world, we lose the remembrance of our hearts and the need to protect it, and then turn to this world to try to find some semblance of peace and ease that will then feed our physical needs, but leave us with this void that will make us only wanting more of this dunya. Where is that focus on the heart? Anyone with a smartphone can say, from the apps that we have, to our email inboxes, to our notifications, this world will give you goals and priorities to focus on. It'll tell you you have 10 unread messages and that your goal now should be to wipe through and read all those messages. It'll tell you that you have 5 missed text messages, that you have 3 notifications from this app, and your goal now should be to answer to that calling right here and right now. And as the world continues to feed us with these fake goals and these transient objectives, we submit. We submit moment to moment, not having any direction in this life because we're allowing the world to tell us where to go and who to be. Allah Azza wa Jalla, He's not interested in who you ultimately become. You could be gone tomorrow, you could be gone weeks from now, months from now, or years from now. But He's not interested in who you ultimately become. He's interested in who you strive to be consistently. What are you seeking to be on a daily basis? Because those actions on a daily basis will inform what direction your heart is going into. And if you lose sight of the fact that your Azza wa Jal, your God, your Creator, is your protector and helper, then leave yourself to this world because it'll eat you up. And it'll neglect the most beautiful part about you, a soul that Allah Azza wa Jal put into your body and into your heart. I've said this before, but every single night when we go to bed, our souls are taken from us. Allah Azza wa Jal tells us in the Quran that the souls return to Him, and each night He chooses which souls to return back to their bodies for another day in this world. You existing in this world right now means that your Creator saw something within you, saw some sort of potential within your own soul that compelled Him to put it back into your body so you could live out this purpose in this world for another day. But if you lose sight of that beauty, then what do we have to exist for? بارك الله لنا ولكم في القرآن العظيم ونفعنا وإياكم بما فيه من الآية والذكر الحكيم. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين فاستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله والصلاة والسلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه ومن والاه. Earlier in the khutbah when I was talking about the shahada, the testimony of faith, I said that it's designed to give us hope, because there are battles and struggles that we will deal with, some that we may never overcome in our lifetime, but that the world will never know about. But the blessing of our Creator is that every single instance of affliction and pain you may feel for the way of sacrificing for your Creator will get acknowledged and rewarded. The Prophet ﷺ tells us that even so much as the prick of a thorn, if that is endured by one of the servants of God, their sins are expiated as a result of it. My teacher described to me that it's as if when you were taking your car keys and you put it in your left pocket, and after some time you stopped to find your car keys and you reached into your right pocket and then thought you misplaced your keys, and that slight moment of anxiety or fear you had that you may have lost them, even that much of pain and affliction is rewarded by your Creator. You look to the life of the Prophet ﷺ, who embodies this understanding of holding on to the rope of Allah, knowing that sacrificing in His way means building a connection with the one who calls himself Al-Wali. There's a story in the life of the Prophet ﷺ where we know that as he's being exiled from Mecca, he and his companion Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, they escaped the city of Mecca. The Qurayshi leaders, those at the time of Mecca, were seeking to kill the Prophet ﷺ. And it's reported that as the Prophet was leaving Mecca, a city that he grew up in and held closely to his heart, he said, if I was not commanded to leave you, I would not leave you. And it's in this state he and Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, they flee and they find a cave, the cave of Thor, on the outskirts of the city where they hide, seeking to lose trace of their past so that the Qurayshi leaders cannot find them. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he enters upon this cave and he cleans out anything that may injure the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. They enter upon the cave and the Prophet, he places his blessed head upon the lap of Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, and he begins to take a nap. There's a snake that comes out of one of the holes in the cave and bites the foot of Abu Bakr. And in wanting to not wake up the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, Abu Bakr, he holds in that pain. And there's tears that start to come from his eyes and they drip down into his beard and they eventually fall upon the face of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Prophet wakes up and he sees the pain that Abu Bakr is enduring. And he takes some of his blessed his spittle, and he places it upon where the bite occurred on his foot, and it becomes healed. And then he says, Ya Abu Bakr, why would you not wake me up when you're experiencing this pain? And Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu, he says, I did not want to disturb your sleep, Ya Rasulullah. As they're in this cave, they begin to hear the Qurayshi leaders coming. And Abu Bakr, he begins to feel this anxiety that there are these people that may find them and that may kill them. And he says to the Prophet, he says, Ya Rasulullah, these people, they are right at the mouth of the cave. If they were to just look down, they would see us. And I want to stop here, because Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu was the greatest of companions of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And in this moment, even though he's with the messenger of God, he feels this fear within his heart, that there's this imminent danger. I don't know what we're going to do, Ya Rasulullah. These people are here, they're going to kill us. It's the same kind of anxiety and fear and struggle we feel in this life when we strive to do good, but we don't see the path on the other side, and we say, Ya Allah, I don't know how I'm going to overcome this difficulty. And the Prophet ﷺ, he says to Abu Bakr, what do you think of two people who the third is Allah? There's such an intimate relationship the Prophet has with Allah that he feels His presence even as the two of them are alone in this cave. Allah Azza wa Jalla tells us in the Quran, as the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تحزن إن الله معنا. That he says to Abu Bakr, don't grieve, don't fear, indeed Allah is with us. And we know in this story that the way Allah Azza wa Jalla protected the Prophet and his companion is that there was a spider that created a web on the mouth of the cave. And there was a dove that created a nest on the mouth of the cave. And the Qurayshi leaders assumed and thought that there must not be anyone in this cave, because if there were, how could there be a spider web? How could there be a bird here with its entire nest that's present? The ways in which Allah Azza wa Jalla shows His closeness to us, His intimate closeness to us, are in ways that are beyond our understanding. But the Prophet ﷺ teaches us something valuable, that after we do what we can, after we strive to put in the effort to protect our hearts, to submit to God in whatever way we are capable of doing, we trust in Him knowing that He is with us, closer to us than our own jugular vein. And in that moment of trusting and submitting, we build an intimate relationship with Allah. I want to end on this one hadith that simply shows the beauty of how much our Creator seeks to elevate us by the smallest of actions. I've said this before, as Allah Azza wa Jalla says to us in the Holy Quran, that not even so much as the grain of an atom, or a speck of atom, or a speck of dirt will be left unaccounted for. That the smallest of our struggles and our efforts will be rewarded by Allah. And He says in a Hadith Qudsi, a narration in which Allah Azza wa Jalla speaks in the first person to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. He says that whomsoever of my believers and of my servants, whoever draws close to me by the length of the hand, I will draw close to them by the length of an arm. And whoever seeks nearness to me by the length of an arm, I will seek closeness to them by the length of a fathom. Imagine 6 feet. And whoever walks to me, takes footsteps, simply begins their pathway to Al-Wali, I will run to them. Whoever comes to me with sins as nearly as great as the earth and turns to me without ascribing any partners to me, I will meet them with forgiveness as nearly as great as it. Your Lord wants to come to you. Again, seeking ways to build that closeness to you. And when it comes back to holding on to the rope of Allah Azza wa Jal, we have to first look to our hearts and try to understand what are we doing to protect and cultivate that relationship with Him within what's in us here. And so I ask Allah Azza wa Jal, we pray to Him, that He grants us that ability to have that vision where we find value in our hearts and not just our physical selves. That we seek out ways to protect and nourish our hearts so that when we strive to build a relationship with our Creator, we can immediately feel that He is Al-Wali, the protector and helper. I'd like to join us in making a short dua before we begin the prayer. إن الله وملائكته يصلون على النبي يا أيها الذين آمنوا صلوا عليه وسلموا تسليما اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين اللهم أنت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والإكرام اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك يا أرحم الراحمين Ya Allah, you are our source of love, our source of strength, and our source of peace. Ya Allah, we thank you for gathering us here today to be in the blessed presence of one another as we could be in a state of remembrance of you. Ya Allah, we ask that you fortify our hearts. Ya Allah, make our hearts firm on your deen. Ya Allah, in the day-to-day struggles we encounter in this world, Ya Allah, never let us lose sight of the ultimate reality, which is our meeting with you. Ya Allah, we ask that through the day-to-day battles that we encounter, that you strengthen our hearts so that we do not lose grasp of the rope of you. Ya Allah, let us hold on to the rope that you've given to us. Ya Allah, strengthen our hearts so that our conviction in you is never shaken. Ya Allah, that we can have the same belief that your Prophet ﷺ had. Ya Allah, our faith in you is so deeply rooted that no matter what is thrown at us in this world, we do not lose sight of your closeness to our Al-Wali. Ya Allah, we ask that you grant ease to all those who are enduring difficulties, spiritual, mental, emotional, and psychological difficulties. Ya Allah, struggles that we may never know of. Ya Allah, we ask that you grant them ease, and Ya Allah, through their difficulties, you elevate their hearts closer to you. Ya Allah, for those who are oppressed, both in this country and across the world, Ya Allah, we ask that you grant them ease. Ya Allah, that through the trials and tribulations they suffer, Ya Allah, grant them ease, contentment, and a greater closeness to you. Ya Allah, we ask that you grant us a deeply rooted belief in you as our Creator. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم وصلى الله على سيدنا وحبيبنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين وأقم الصلاة